This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Welcome to a very exciting Coffee with Kenobi, here to break down the incredible news from a Disney Investor Day 2020. Of course, they do this once a year, and boy, they are ending 2020 with an incredible bang. So I've got to bring in an all-star cast of characters. First, let's bring in Clayton Sandell.
Hey guys, how are you?
We are great, man. We are excited to have you on, and we're going to talk so much about a lot of Star Wars content, a little Indiana Jones, and we'll see where the conversation takes us. Let's bring in the rest of our colorful cast of all-stars. First, Mr. Tom Gross.
Well, hello. It's great to be here. Oh, as always, wow, what a day.
What a day indeed. So we got to round out this Fab Four, the Fantastic Four, considered Marvel Fantastic Four movie, with Mr. Cory Clubb.
Hello. I'm excited to be here. I'm exhausted, but excited to be here. I just feel like I've just been drenched by Star Wars goodness.
There's a lot of goodness to celebrate. So we're just going to jump right in, and I'll just ask all of you in the order that I introduced you. Well, I want to get your immediate reactions to this event. Now, Clayton, I'm assuming you've been a part of these, or have you ever been to one of these live before? Did they ever do it like that?
They do them live, and usually they do them in front of an audience of investors. I've never been to one, though. I've watched some of the live streams, and people who do it that way know that, unfortunately, they don't show the same clips. We're not big enough investors, Dan, so we didn't get to see all of the clips that the big investors got to see, but that's kind of typically how they do it, and a lot of it, sometimes it has to do with music clearance rights and other things. But yeah, never been to one in person, but have watched a couple over the years.
I'm glad you said that, because I texted you during this saying, why am I getting stills with a lot of picture or a lot of music? And you explained it to me like, duh, of course. So what do you think over all the announcements?
I mean, today was like drinking from a Star Wars fire hose. I mean, there was so much coming at us, and I kind of I thought it was big in two very significant ways. And I think the first one, I mean, I can't remember ever getting this much Star Wars content at once on one day, and it was kind of like getting. It was kind of like all 4 days of Star Wars Celebration like jammed into one afternoon, and which I guess kind of makes sense, because we probably would have heard at least some of this, if not most of it, at Celebration Anaheim. Let's pour one out for Celebration Anaheim. Yeah, it was just a whole heck of a lot of stuff, and then of course I think that the other big significant thing is that we finally got a first female director named for a Star Wars film versus the series. So those were the two biggest sort of things that, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about, but those two things kind of stuck out to me more than anything.
Yeah, I'm sworn off sugar after today. I can't, my nerves can't take anymore. It's great. Yeah, great. Tom, what about you? I know I was texting Tom voraciously, and he was teaching his spin class. I forgot about that. And do I say spin class, or what is it officially called?
It's technically called RPM.
RPM.
It's a Les Mills class out of New Zealand, but it's it's cycling.
You're not a yoga pants spin kind of guy.
No,
not yet.
No.
He thought about it. He's like, "Am I?"
Now that you mentioned,
no.
You got to start slow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Ease in.
Yep.
Anyway, Star Wars.
Right. So anyway, yeah, after I got done teaching, I looked, obviously at my phone and saw your texts, and I was like, oh boy, because right before I went to teach, I saw the announcement of 10 Star Wars and 10 and 10 of Marvel and Star Wars, and so I thought, oh wow, there's some cool stuff coming. But then I went and taught, and when I got back, the news was overwhelming. Saying it's a fire hose is. It's almost like an understatement, because I just kept scrolling through StarWars.com, and the news just kept going and going. And the one that I thought was really cool, I know we're talking about Star Wars, but when you go to Marvel.com, there's like an empty bottom. You keep just scrolling, and then a new bottom shows up, and then you keep scrolling, bottom shows up. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, so the things that I forget now what you asked. What are my initial reaction was just the shock at the volume.
I agree.
Yeah, it's just the shock of the volume of stuff. Some things, some of these things we've kind of heard rumblings about going forward. Some of these things were just great hopes, but some of these were things I completely did not expect, like a Rogue One film, or not Rogue One, a Rogue Squadron film. Just that was very shocking to me.
Cory, what about you? You and I were certainly chatting back and forth a little bit during this as well.
Absolutely. It's one of those things, it's middle of the work day of sorts, and this is coming, and you kind of like set aside this mental time, right? And like Clayton said, it's like a fire hose. I love that analogy. But I was always a huge fan of drinking out of the hose during summertime. It was like the best drinking water. And this is it for me. This is like delicious drinking water. It's come out a little too fast, but that's okay. But like you guys said, like, there's such great variety here. That's why I realized, like, I didn't know what to expect next. As I was refreshing and watching and keeping up with everything. It was just like, I feel like it was like, oh, I recognize that because that's kind of in development. But also, what in the world is this? Like, that's why I'm so excited about Star Wars being still surprising to me, and still like giving me that excitement, that shock value. I've never let down. So I'm just blown away by this. I'm excited for these. And the other aspect of it was like, I kept going, yes, yes. And my kids were like, what, Dad? What, Dad? So my kids are casually coming in back and forth. But it was never like, 2 minutes. I would be like pumping my fist or like going, yeah. And so they kept sneaking in and checking in on me. So that was fun to kind of get with them and kind of experience that. So a lot of fun.
Yeah, the whole thing, like I think you would say, Clayton, like the sheer volume, the avalanche of Star Wars excitement and announcements from all different spectrums was easily unprecedented. And I agree. I'm sure this would have been stuff that we would have gotten at Star Wars Celebration and what have you. It very much the way it was presented, the whole program, the whole 4 hours of it, felt like the D23 Expo that I went to last year, where they come out and you actually get to see everybody, and they do their presentations, they show the clips, the actors come out, the directors, what have you, writers, etc. So it kind of felt like that, but in the comfort of your own home, which is really, really nice. And to say the adrenaline was huge, I was extremely fired up. And then the best part for me was I watched it with Mason, and he and I sat there at the dinner table, and I had the laptop on the dinner table, which we never do. And Deanna took a picture of us. We were both apparently had the exact same expression, staring at the screen, like holding our sweet potatoes. And she goes, "You guys are twins." I'm like, "Yes, yes, it's fun." And we all kind of have those fun relationships. Sharing Star Wars with our children is such a blast, and all four of us know exactly what that is like. And so I just thought a lot of things at once, which we're going to talk about throughout this episode. But the main thing I thought was I'm going to get to experience and enjoy Star Wars with my family and my friends for a really long time. Star Wars is very vibrant and alive. And I'm going to break character real quickly and say, everybody that was worried on Twitter about something bad happening? Well, guess what? Rumors are just that, folks. They're rumors, and they don't mean anything. Enjoy the process. I mean, how we all feel now, this excitement, this adrenaline, this is what it's all about, right? And you don't get that if you're digging in the weeds for other stuff. So that is why Coffee with Kenobi is speculation and spoiler free. We're going to continue to do so. All right, off the soapbox for now. Let's jump into the first major announcement. We knew there was going to be 10 new Disney Plus Star Wars series that were coming out. The first one was basically a twofer. Both of these are involving Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Both of these series, Rangers of the New Republic, which I did not expect, and Ahsoka. Clayton, let's start with you. What do you think of these two announcements?
Yeah, I was surprised by both of them. I guess there's been rumors of an Ahsoka series going around, but it'll be cool to see how this one goes. And they describe this one as a limited series, so I suspect it will not be multiple seasons. They'll probably do a 6 or 8 run series. Favreau and Filoni are involved, which is great. Rosario Dawson is coming back for that, and so I'm actually really excited to see that one. I think that we're that episode of The Mandalorian I think was one of my favorites so far, especially that opening sequence, and so it'll be fun to see her running around kicking some galactic butt in that series, and then Rangers of the New Republic. What fascinates me about this is that it's supposed to be set during the same timeline as The Mandalorian. So I think that you probably will have a lot of crossover between that and The Mandalorian and other things. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do with Rangers of the New Republic. Paul Sung-Young Lee, who was one of the pilots, played one of the X-Wing pilots in The Mandalorian this season, has been on Twitter lobbying like crazy to be one of the Rangers of the New Republic, I think. So that would be kind of cool. But yeah, I'm intrigued by what that's going to be. Whether it's going to be this sort of like space police kind of role that we saw these guys play in a couple episodes of The Mandalorian this season.
Did they say anything about? I mean, I know we already know that Mandalorian season 3 is coming out, but they didn't even mention that, did they?
No, they did not. And they have been filming for a few weeks now. So I presume, I thought maybe we'd get a little bit of maybe a sizzle reel from that, but turns out we didn't. But no, they had way too much to talk about, Dan. They didn't even get to The Mandalorian.
That's true. That sizzle reel was pretty fun, but yeah, it was all footage we've seen before. And
right,
I saw Tracy Kenobi, a longtime Lucasfilm PR person, said this is the Filoni-verse, was kind of a in a lovingly fun way. So cool. Tom, what about you? What about these two announcements?
Well, I'll just say that I've kind of gotten into the area where I have these wants for Star Wars, but I'm trying to always make myself content with what I've got, right, and to be thankful for seeing Ahsoka in The Mandalorian. But this mini series, or that's not what how they called it, the limited series, quenches my thirst. Before I even see it, because at the end of that season, or that program, that episode, I was kind of left wanting it. Like, that's all we get of it. Was kind of like a roller coaster ride. After 90 seconds, you're done, and you're like, that was it. And so I kind of felt that way. But this limited series, satisfies that and makes me even more excited for more of that storytelling. And the Rangers of the New Republic. Wow. I mean, kind of like the Rogue Squadron, this expected title, and a dive into, the same time as Mandalorian also seemed a little unexpected. So I'm looking forward to that, especially since we've had encounters with the New Republic on a couple different instances, and maybe more. I don't know. But this looks cool, and I like the description, the end of the description, where it says it culminates in a climactic story event. The only thing that would have made that more descriptive is if it said something like a cross story event or something like that. But that definitely leads me to believe that something big is going to happen or be revealed in this program.
I agree. Cory, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ahsoka was a given, right? I mean, it makes sense. It makes total sense. It fits so much boxes, I guess, people are checking for Star Wars. And to do that is just an easy win. And her in Mandalorian obviously was kind of that I guess, kickoff. So I'm excited for sure for that. And the Rangers of the New Republic, it takes it back to like the Texas Rangers or an old TV show of some sort. It really has that vibe of, a group of individuals getting together, righting wrongs. We had that same feel from Cara Dune's character too, a little bit from that exchange she had in The Mandalorian season 2, and kind of picking up that almost like
the badge.
Yeah, it's like the badge or the marshal status is kind of like, we see these marshals, we see these establishments going around, and like this is almost like this combination of like a group of people, and that's what excites me too. It's like it's this new territory that we didn't expect again from Star Wars, and it just makes it a rich environment for new characters, new adventures, and anything goes. That's what I think is so exciting. You think, that I always feel like you have to stick to the Skywalker lineage and kind of how is that going to fit into that? And you don't. It's a sandbox environment. You can just do whatever you want and have a blast. So I think again, it's going to be a really successful series. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. The Ahsoka announcement was like the only thing I really wanted to hear. I want more of that character. I want more of that story. I've talked on 3 or 4 different shows about Rosario Dawson and Ashley Eckstein and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, they're both great, and Ahsoka is great. So I get to see more of that. Executive produced by Dave Filoni, who helped create this character. So that's tremendous. That's great. I'm really excited to see where that's going to fall in the timeline. And when you think about both this and Rangers of the New Republic, I mean, those episodes, both the Siege and the Jedi, they both seem tailor-made for, this is a jumping off point to a new idea, to a new series. So it almost seems like clear, as you both said, or all of you said. And then Rangers of the New Republic, when I saw that pop up, to be honest, my first reaction was, why? And then I thought, okay, I mean, it's Favreau and Filoni. They're expending this particular timeline in the era of The Mandalorian. It wouldn't it be great if these 3 series intersected like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which seems like that's kind of the direction they're going anyway. So I'll take a wait-and-see approach to that. I had a wait-and-see approach to The Mandalorian. I wasn't sure about that. And, look what happened with The Mandalorian. It's one of the best Star Wars things ever happened. In fact, I think it's fair to say The Mandalorian's better than some of the movies. I mean, it's that good. So if these guys are doing it, that's wonderful. Good to see that Jon Favreau is still there. Poor Dave Filoni is apparently never going to sleep again for the rest of his life. That's unfortunate. But those are really, really great. But we got a couple of more announcements. We got well, I just want to talk about this right now. Obi-Wan Kenobi. We knew that was happening. That it was announced last year at the D23 Expo in August. We actually have the official title, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we didn't know any of this, but it's set 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. But the news, guys, that I actually gasped out loud that who's coming back. Darth Vader is coming back, but he's coming back as with the actor. I can't even say it. I'm so Twitter pated. It's Hayden Christensen. He's going to be back in Star Wars, live action Star Wars, as Darth Vader. Now, this is insanely cool. Clayton, or should I say Dank Ferrickberg, what do you think?
I think it's cool. It's a little perplexing to me on a couple of different levels. Number one, unless we're going to see Hayden with the helmet off, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to bring him back just to be in the costume with the helmet, never seeing his face, a la Pedro Pascal in The Mandalorian. Because he certainly Hayden does not have the physique that I think you need for a Darth Vader, a very tall, broad-shouldered David Prowse type. Yeah. So it kind of leads me to believe that maybe we're going to see him, maybe not a main character, but maybe 1 or 2 episodes here or there. So I'm a little perplexed at exactly how they're going to use Darth Vader. I'm totally excited to see him come back. The other thing that gave me a little bit of concern, and I kind of went, was when Kathy Kennedy said this will be the rematch of the century. And I thought, well, wait a minute. The rematch was in the halls of the Death Star in episode 4. I mean, what do you mean rematch? So I'm a little curious to see how they're going to pull this off and frame a rematch, because it would suggest that they had a much more interaction from the point that he left them for dead on Mustafar. So yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see Darth Vader again. I never want to. I love me some Darth. I don't want to. I don't want to poo-poo that, but I'm a little concerned about how they're going to use him and how Hayden's going to be appearing in the show.
I think that's very valid, and I'm going to talk about that too. But I won't cut. Tom, the floor is yours, buddy.
Thank you for not cutting. I'd have to send you to the back of the line on the next question, which you were already at. So anyway, Clayton, I have the exact same questions. I'm excited about the star power and having Hayden Christensen back into the into the role of Star Wars, and especially as Darth Vader. But I was having a difficult time picking in what ways that might come about. And so I've got a few ideas in my head, but I just don't know what that would look like. And I also noted that that quote that was in StarWars.com where she says this will be the rematch of the century. Now, I do know from, reading the Star Wars comic, there are a lot of sort of like close calls of characters meeting and being kind of scratching my head going, wait a minute, how does, there's those sorts of things where, you're trying to piece the puzzles together, the puzzle pieces together, and you're kind of like, I'm not sure how that works. I suspect that it's going to be a similar type of situation with this. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, they're so good at this that I dare not question how that's going to look, but it does raise questions for me as well. But it certainly does not diminish my excitement for an Obi-Wan Kenobi miniseries.
Agree.
Sounds good. Cory?
I really like the idea of Hayden Christensen returning because there's so many different unique storytelling options you have. You always think of, he's going to be Darth Vader, he'll be in the suit, and you won't be able to see him. But let's think about this. Let's think about him not being in the suit. Let's think about him, a different, maybe it's a dream sequence, or maybe it's just a past memory that he's reliving, or something. The Force. I mean, there's so many options I think that are doable. But then again, we saw Boba Fett return, and the actor came back and played him in a great iteration, and kind of these little puzzle pieces along the way. I hope that's how it is. My other thought is James Earl Jones. Will he return? Right? I mean, that's the two-part connection piece, right? I would love to see some James Earl Jones come back, voice Vader, some new lines, and do that all again. So that, to me, that is the last piece of the puzzle that I think that's missing. They haven't said anything about that yet, but there are a lot of unique things you can do. I think we tend to think, it's in that era, he's Vader, he's going to be Vader. So I don't know. It's exciting to see. I think that's going to be a big mystery. Again, having the full sequence of the Obi-Wan Kenobi with the little lightsaber at the end of the logo as it revealed there was really spot on. Really nice job. I like that reveal. The nice looking logo. And again, this is a top ranking series for me.
I think it's tricky. It's tricky because Vader is one of the most iconic of the iconic characters. So you have to be really careful with how you play him and how you portray him. And for me, like in Rogue One, loved him in Rogue One, except for when he makes the dad joke about choking on your aspirations. And it's like, that's a little stumble. So yeah, you kind of have to just be really careful with how you portray him. And so we'll see. I mean, I have faith in Deborah Chow. I have faith in the folks involved. So we'll see how it goes. But
remember, though, in Empire, apology accepted, Captain Nita. He's got a funny bone. He just doesn't show it a lot.
The light side of the Force.
Yeah, I agree. Vader, like Jaws, you have to judiciously show them. It can't be a lot, or it takes away the power. That's why I've never been crazy that they keep relaunching the Darth Vader comic book series. I think you got to cut it off somewhere. Enough has to be enough. But that being said, like he mentioned, he's the icon of icons. He's like one of the most famous on-screen characters / villains of all time. The challenge for me is the timeline. I like that it's 10 years after. So Ewan McGregor / Obi-Wan Kenobi's had some time to be on Tatooine. The big hang up for me, and I felt this way since this series was announced, he can't run into Luke. He can't talk to Luke. He can't. I mean, I guess he's going to see him because he's protecting him from far away, but they can't interact or have these clever little, that's the nice guy that gave me an orange at the grocery store. I don't want to do that. I don't want that to happen. They have to be smart about that because that's going to drive me nuts. But I never thought about the fact that if it's Hayden Christensen, somebody's wearing the helmet, who cares? Because he's wearing the helmet and you can't see him. However, hearing Darth Vader come back, exciting. Hearing that it's the actor from Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones, that brings it to a whole other emotional level for me. Because then you've got that connection to people who love the prequels. And the exciting thing about all these announcements today is a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about and enjoy has connection to the prequel era. 10 years ago, that never would have happened. Everybody complained about the prequels. Now it feels like the sequel trilogy's kind of taken the back seat in the Star Wars fandom. So how exciting that we get to see that direct connection there, that we get to bring him back into the fold. And as long as, like you said, as long as it's very, very stirring, I like the way they use Moff Gideon. He's not in it a lot. You put him in for like a couple of seconds here and there for every episode. Then it feels like he's around a lot when he's really not. Mm-hmm. And that's good, clever, sophisticated storytelling. So hopeful that will be the case. And did they announce a year for that one? I don't think it is not on stars.com. Clayton, did you or anything?
For Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they did.
I don't think
I want to say it's next year, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and that's also a limited series, right? Is that also?
I
limited?
think it's only 6 episodes. If memory serves.
Okay, yeah.
Unless that's changes when they go into production. All right, so we've got a couple more that we need to talk about. We'll just talk about the one that's the furthest along. We got a really nice sizzle reel of, and that is Andor. That is one that is being run by Tony Gilroy, who helped to bring Rogue One to life. Diego Luna is back. The footage that we saw was spectacular. Clayton, what do you think about Andor?
I am so excited about Andor because Rogue One is truly one of my favorite movies, and to see Diego in that role again, he's just like he was before. He's just like a kid in a candy store. He could not be more excited to be doing this, and so it was fun to see him back. I mean, some of the behind the scenes footage they used was from Rogue One, and they've only been shooting for a few weeks in London, but. To see him back in that role and to see all of the usual suspects from the creature department to the costume department, the art department, building those sets, I am really excited to see Andor.
Tom.
Same. This one just looked great. The sizzle reel was wonderful. Like you said, a lot of Rogue One footage, but we got a lot of set footage though. To get a look at that. And then how about the concept art that we also got to take a look at, which I thought was very cool. In fact, that was almost more, and I've really appreciated that in The Mandalorian, how during credits you get to see all the concept art. That's one of my favorite parts of, once the story is done, I look forward to that. And so when they cut into some of those concept art pieces in the sizzle reel, oh boy, I like all of that. Something else in that sizzle reel that I really, it's come to be sort of an expectation, I think, but it was nice to hear it repeated over and over by several of the players in that. And that was where they said, we're treating this just like a feature film. There, no details being spared, nothing, I think again, we expect that as Star Wars fans, as fans of, The Mandalorian, but excellent to hear them continue to say that. And when they show the pieces, the aliens, they look just like the pieces from the movies, and they're beautiful and they're so realistic. Oh, I'm pumped for this one.
Yeah, this reveal almost made me feel like, okay, that we weren't getting a ton of movie announcements. Well, of course, that changes. But, Cory, what about you?
Yeah, this one, again, I remember we originally heard about it, and I was kind of lukewarm because I think Rogue One as a film works so well because of the ending. Mm-hmm. And to go back and kind of like, oh, here's how it all got started, or here's his character spotlight, and we're going to follow him through his spy adventures. And that sounds great. But I feel like it's a little bit of like I don't know. I can't connect to him necessarily. Maybe this is a good series to connect him with, but calling it Andor also is kind of like, is it that well known who this guy is? I think there's a lot of mystery in that. He doesn't really fit necessarily. You can't throw him up into. He's like I hate to say it, like a B-level character in Star Wars fandom in the sense of, looking through characters. You think of like Marvel heroes and stuff. You think of like these top tier characters and you have those lower tier characters, and he lands in that low tier for me. So not that I'm not excited about this. And again, the sizzle reel was fantastic for all you guys' same reasons. And it's interesting because it's hard for me to just get that fit into that slot. But then it's weird because, we talk about Rangers of the New Republic where that's fresh and new. And it's like, I'm like, okay, I'm okay with this. How's that one feel okay? And this one doesn't feel as good. I don't know. It's just a weird amalgam a little bit for me for this series. But I'll definitely be watching.
No, totally fair. I was kind of like, okay, Cassie. And honestly, I think for me, part of my initial sort of ho-hum feelings about Andor was because The Mandalorian is so darn good, and I don't want to think about The Mandalorian ending. But Rogue One, as you all said, is excellent, easily one of the best Star Wars movies ever created. And I always liked Diego Luna. I always liked his performance. And you hear him in that sizzle reel talk about the magic and how he couldn't believe he was back. And then basically Taylor made this entire thing. It almost feels like in the sizzle reel that was just for him and his, of course, it's for his character. But I thought that was cool. I love that Genevieve O'Reilly's coming back as Mon Mothma. And I thought the way that the tone of just that sizzle reel itself, I suddenly thought, okay, I'm insanely excited about this one now. So that is great. We've only got 2 left.
No K2SO though. I was a little disappointed that they didn't name K2, and Alan Tudyk was not named in the
that's true.
The official cast list. I don't think that means anything. I think he's still in it, but
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Maybe that's when they meet. Although there is a comic book that shows how they meet, and it is not good.
Can I say one more thing about that series though? They flashed the logo up on the screen, and it's almost like a pre-Rebel. Firebird, right? It's almost like it's got 2 wings on the side rather than the 4, and it's not really shaped. It's almost like we're learning this character become who he is going to be, right? And that kind of gives away in the logo. I think that's really interesting. I think it's a smart idea to work into his logo and really touch base back. I don't know, you go back to a new movie or timeline. I guess you go back to Rogue One, and it's definitely Back to the Future. So for him, but pretty cool.
No, that is very cool. I like that. Yeah, and it's good that we have you on for the designs because you're the graphic designer. Let's take a really quick break and return with more breakdown of the incredible announcements from Lucasfilm today. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
MEI and Mouse Fan Travel is your one-stop shop for your vacation needs and your plans to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or the cruise lines. Travel looks much different now than it did a couple of months ago, and with the opening of Walt Disney World and soon, hopefully, the opening of Disneyland, you need a place to go where you can trust, and they will help you figure out and navigate all the different circumstances and guidelines that Disney has put out for you. And I can say that we had our vacation modified, and as soon as dates were announced, MEI contacted me directly to help me reschedule, which is exactly what I was hoping to do. So if you are interested in rescheduling your vacation or want to try to plan a Walt Disney World, Disneyland vacation, or anywhere else you want to go on the planet, be sure to contact MEI and Mouse Fan Travel at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. Their signature service and expert advice will help you maximize your vacation time and dollar, and they will help you figure out all the different changes and modifications going on at the Disney theme parks. They are amazing, and I can tell you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, the peace of mind that Becky Menken and the crew at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel have given me is invaluable. If you're interested at all, again, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan-travel. So there's 2 more that are out there still. We know the least about both of them, so we'll just talk about them both at the same time. The first one is one that we had known was coming. We just didn't know anything about. We knew that Leslie Headland? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
The Emmy Award-nominated creator of the mind-bending series Russian Doll brings a new Star Wars series to Disney+. It's called The Acolyte. The description here is, The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take the audience into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A couple things stand out about that for me. One, the fact that it's actually something live action that's going to be about the High Republic. So up to this point, it's only been in novels, which no one has gotten a chance to read yet. And then the other big announcement is one that was really refreshing and one that was sort of rumored all the way back when Solo came out, and it's simply called Lando. And this is the creator of the critically acclaimed Dear White People, Justin Simeon, is developing the story, but we don't have any information about a cast or anything like that at all. Clayton, what do you think about these two?
I actually was confused by Lando because when Kathy Kennedy made the announcement, it happened in the sort of animation part of her presentation. So I wasn't sure what that series was, whether it was animated or live action. People seem to be thinking that it's a live action series, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that is, I thought that, and I think the other thing that kind of made me think that maybe it was animated was just because they didn't name who would be playing Lando, which is sort of the $64,000 question. Yeah. Are you going to be able to get Donald Glover back for that? But I love Dear White People. I don't know if you've seen the movie or the show, but it's I think if he can bring sort of that sort of tone and humor to it, I think it'll be great.
That's awesome. And Solo, of course, is where you and I started our bromance.
Indeed. Yes. Our anniversary is coming up this year. No.
Every year it is.
That's
right. So what about the other show? Did you mention that one?
The Acolyte. I think this may be where we get into weird Star Wars. It's kind of intriguing. Russian Doll is a weird show where this woman keeps getting killed on her like 36th birthday or something like that, and relives the day over and over and over, and it's very odd and different. So it'll be interesting to see what Leslie Headland brings to this show. We didn't hear much about it. It's this galaxy of shadowy secrets, I think they described it as, and emerging, I forget how they describe it, emerging powers, dark powers, something like that. So I think there's a chance for this to be kind of the first edgy, weird Star Wars story, and I'm curious to see what it looks like.
Tom, what about these two shows for you?
Yeah, two different kinds of question marks on both of these when I read them. One of them was out of a little bit more anxiety of, don't mess something up with, and that's with the Lando. Without Donald Glover, I don't know how you do this show. But it's intriguing, though, that you mentioned that it came in the animated part of the presentation. So who knows? But so I'm just kind of on the Lando one, I'm a little bit more nervous of what will this be like, and where does this fall? Whereas the question mark on the Acolyte is more, we know nothing. Well, at least those of us who have not, had access to any of the story of the High Republic. This is something I know nothing about. It's interesting. I didn't know anything about Russian Doll or the director, Leslie Headland. So, Clayton, you give me a little bit of insight as to maybe what kinds of things we can expect, or at least what kind of background. I do like the fact, and I'll talk about this later when we talk about what we're really looking forward to, and maybe not as much, but I really like the idea in the description here that they're giving a very clear genre for this one. It's a mystery thriller. And I'm basing this all on, the Western aspect of The Mandalorian. They've made that very clear. And that's the feel. And I love that I have that expectation and I can look for that. So here is, a thriller. So that gives me something to hang on to as to what the feel of this could potentially be.
All right. Thank you. Cory.
Yeah, these two for me are definitely question marks. And, like you said, it seems like the ones that are more mysterious, the series that are coming out, I'm like more excited for. But the ones I know a little bit more about, I'm like, I don't know. I'm trying to fit the facts I know from the movies I've seen into what they're kind of representing. And I was surprised to hear that was a Lando series. I was like, I'd really rather have a Solo too. I was expecting something along those lines. That would have been fantastic, I think, to carry on, those characters and see where they're headed. We all know where they're headed, but exactly. This is. I don't know what I'm talking about. For Lando, I'm probably less excited because it just seems like it's almost like, oh, we have an idea. We have 10 slots. Just fill it with something, and that's what it felt like to me. The Acolyte to me is like I feel like there's a stronger idea rolling with that one. And maybe, like you said, they're kind of getting out into a new area. We're bumping into the back end of the High Republic. We've heard some of the books coming out, and that series is spinning up. So it's almost saying, hey, here's what's going to happen in the end. This whole thing is going to happen. This movie will come out, and this is what's going to happen. The other aspect of it, Acolyte, for me was maybe think of what it is an acolyte. Why do they name it that? It seems like mysterious. We don't really know what it means. To me, I went to the vampire route where vampires have familiars. And I thought, man, this could be really centered on someone who is just a regular person, and really an introspective look on, how they see all the goings on of the mysterious and the, the excitement. So that could be really interesting, because we always see these high-powered heroes who have got nothing to lose or go on adventures, and to follow someone who is just living this world could be really interesting. So that was more on my radar than Lando for me.
Yeah, when I first knew that there was going to be that Leslie Headland was leading a series, but they didn't really say much about it, I was completely ambivalent. But this description is quite intriguing psychologically, because the Acolyte and the fact that there's some dark side stuff makes me think that it reminds me of Asajj Ventress when she was learning from Dooku, even though these characters are not around in this time frame. A Dooku might be as a young man. No, probably not. He's probably not born yet. But I like that notion of the sort of the flirtation with the dark side and what that might mean, and the where is the Sith during all this? Palpatine, Darth Plagueis is probably around during this time period, or at least maybe maybe we'll have a baby Darth Plagueis. We'll catch the world by storm. Grogu the prequel. So that could be quite fun. So I'm actually a little more intrigued by that, but I don't necessarily know that I want weird Star Wars. I mean, I feel like Star Wars, I've said this before on other things, but I want it to be like Batman, where suddenly Batman is existent in every single tone and genre ever. I'd rather just be consistent, like Star Wars, Clone Wars, Star Wars, Rebels, The Mandalorian, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. They're all very different, but they all feel like they're in the same place, the same genre, and I hope that it stays in that. But again, wait and see. I'm much more intrigued by the description. Lando has got me psyched. I'm thrilled about that. Mason and I, that was one of the things we're the most pumped about, because then I think maybe I'll see the Falcon, maybe I'll see Alden Ehrenreich and Eunice Suetamo. Maybe we'll get a continuation of that. Maybe Kira will come back. That would be really okay with me. So who knows? I'm excited about that. And when you look on Lucasfilm, it's very much wedged in between all the other live action Disney Plus stuff. So that tells me it is going to be live action. At least that is my hope anyway. So let's go, because I want to keep the show to under an hour. So I'll try to talk a little bit fast. Now let's go to the animated stuff. We've got The Bad Batch, which we knew about. We've got something called Star Wars Visions, which is going to be more of an anime style. And then we've got something called A Droid Story. So Clayton, talk about these three animated shows.
I'm not a huge fan of any of the animated stuff. I mean, I like Clone Wars, I like Rebels, but for me, it's the movies and the live action stuff that does it for me. So I'm excited to see, The Bad Batch. To me, was sort of the best part of the last season of Clone Wars. I really enjoyed, the banter and the interaction and kind of what they were all about, and this sort of A-team kind of mentality and way they went about things, which is kind of cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Star Wars Visions sounds really intriguing. This series, they describe it as animated short films through the lens of the world's best anime creators, which is kind of neat. And one of the cool things I heard about, people were sort of talking about this on Twitter and social media after the announcement, which I thought was neat, was that this kind of seems like it's the first time that Star Wars is sort of giving back to the culture that it has borrowed so heavily from in the past, which is kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, I like that. And then do you say anything about the droids thing?
Droid story, yeah, I couldn't quite tell what that's about. Some sort of mashup that seems like it's going to be heavily reliant on ILM to do some visual effects stuff. But R2D2 and C3PO are also going to be in it, so that's kind of cool. And Anthony Daniels had recently hinted when he was doing interviews a few weeks ago for the Lego holiday special, had hinted that C3PO was going to be back. So this sounds like one of those projects where he's going to be back. And, for the guy that holds the record of appearing in all the films and every project, even ones that don't have C-3PO in them, I think it's great that he'll be back and C-3PO will be back.
I know. I like that too. And the second person to be in the most Star Wars is Jerry Mathers, right? Is that right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You're exactly right. Yeah.
I usually finish the sentence. All right, Tom, what about these three animated things for you?
Well, I mean, certainly the sizzle reel of the Bad Batch didn't hurt. The excitement of that, having something to see along with that. So I like the idea of where they're going with that. It's it's post-war, and it's kind of the Bad Batch figuring out their place in the galaxy. I really, really like that, and I'm curious to see where they take. So a continuation of our Clone Wars, but with this new group that we really fell in love with. Visions is probably of the three that I'm kind of have most excitement for. I really like the fact that Disney jumped into Leia manga this year. I'm not a huge fan of manga, but I'm excited to see what that looks like. And I feel like this is going to be sort of in that same vein where we're going to move into the anime. And I love the experimentation here. And I like this idea of short films. And so now, I didn't read it super carefully. Are these going to be unique films or are they retellings?
Yeah, celebrating Star Wars. They don't really say. Some sort of an anthology, collection, but it doesn't really. Yeah.
So we recently. My daughter and I recently rewatched many of the Forces of Destiny, which connect very closely with a story and kind of fill the gap of a story. So I wondered if that is what this was going to look like. But at the same time, I'm excited about the exploration into a genre of anime. Droid Story, I was a little confused on this one as well. If it's going to be a combination of animation, live action with, as they say, visual effects from ILM. But like I said, Clayton, R2D2, C3PO, I'm excited about that. Who doesn't want an R2, 3PO with a new hero? So, let's see what they got.
I love it. Cory.
Yeah, Bad Batch obviously was kind of a dead ringer for the Filoni verse, if you will. I like that term. I'm going to use that. But it was a given when they were introduced in the Clone Wars. It's another obvious win, I think, to just have their animated series keep on rolling. I think they could continue to pump these out and just have success after success. So I think that will do well. I think my kids really like those characters from that last Clone Wars season. And I saw the action figures came out. I thought that was an odd choice. But apparently they're kicking it off. So I was like, okay, that feels right now. It feels good. The year was 1999, and The Matrix just came out. And I remember after The Matrix, I saw that movie twice in theaters the same weekend. Whew, I was crazy. And after that, there was a series that came out called Matrix Animated, I think, or something like that. And they took the Matrix universe and animated it and had some famous animators coming in tell these stories. And that's what I feel like Star Wars Visions is. It's kind of like, hey, come play in our universe and have some fun and do it your own style. And like Clayton, you guys said, this is kind of, again, come play in our sandbox. We want to, create new ideas, see what different visions are. Obviously, having, if someone handed you a thing to do and they said, hey, give us your vision or your version of this, you're going to do it your own way. So that's what's, I think, super unique. I think it's, again, handing over the reins to someone else and just saying, you are a creator, you do your thing. And I think that's really exciting. I think there's a lot of things that come out of that too, because you see a lot of that around the internet, fandom pieces and a lot of different aspects of that. So to have that kind of cataloged in that is really cool. And then the Droid Story, again, like you said, classic characters. You really can't go wrong with them. It seems like it was just an easy one to fill out the resume of Star Wars and Disney Plus, kind of all ages, kind of encapsulating that. And that's what it kind of falls in that category for me. It falls like, hey, a fun little adventure with some well-known droids, and let's let, things happen as they will. So, I think all three of those sound good. Will I watch all three? I don't know. I think that's another question. We'll see.
Fair. That's fair. So I thought Clone Wars looks, we'll see. I guess I've already revealed what I think. I feel like the Bad Batch looks like Clone Wars 2.0, and I think it's beautiful. Even like the logo shows Clone Wars, and it kind of melts off, and it's the Bad Batch.
I love that. That was a great
I loved it too.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the animation is insanely gorgeous. Part of me thought that it wasn't going to be as complex as the Clone Wars has been or Rebels was, but it appears it's going to be that and more. Hearing McDermott's track from Revenge of the Sith echoing and knowing that's going to be going concurrently with Order 66. I mean, maybe Ahsoka could show up in this with Ashley Eckstein. I mean, that would certainly make sense because of Rex. I don't know. But I'm super stoked for that. That feels like a sort of a homecoming for me. As far as the other two, I'm not even going to say I'm ambivalent. I couldn't care less. I don't care about anime. I mean, I really don't. And that Matrix thing you talked about, I thought was an apt comparison because I thought about that as well. Will I watch it? I probably will because of this whole Coffee with Kenobi thing. But, and then the droids thing, I'm like, well, okay. If anything, these two probably felt like the most like filler, if that's such a thing. But I think that's kind of insulting because people who are making it are insanely creative and talented, and this may be their dream passion project. So I will wait and see. Of course, R2 and 3PO, getting them a little bit of prominence back would be nice because I sorely missed them both in the sequel trilogy. They weren't really in it very much. So that aspect of it will be just fine. So now we're going to go to what I didn't expect. I don't know if anyone really expected. We got some actual movie news. We got news of they brought up the Taika Waititi film again. They just said a brand new Star Wars feature with acclaimed filmmaker and Academy Award winner Taika Waititi is in development. It says his approach to Star Wars will be fresh, unexpected, and unique. His enormous talent and sense of humor will ensure that audiences are in for an unforgettable ride. So we knew about that, but we didn't get it. I thought we were going to get a title. We kind of got this weird sort of bluish Play-Doh-looking Star Wars font, which I thought was kind of cool, but I didn't really know what that was about. And then we got, what to me was the absolute stunner, the fact that Patty Jenkins of Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984 and the upcoming Cleopatra film is going to step into the Star Wars universe. So we're getting a Star Wars movie. The next Star Wars movie is called Rogue Squadron. It's coming into theaters Christmas 2023. Clayton, was that a big surprise to you? And what do you think about these two?
Yeah, it was a huge surprise and a good one. I wish it was a year earlier. We got to wait 3 years to see what she pulls together. But yeah, it's enormously exciting, and it's sort of an important point historically for the franchise because there have been people that have been calling for a female film director for a long time. And Kathy Kennedy, I think as recently as the BAFTAs back in February, was asked about this and, kind of didn't answer it directly. And she kind of said, yeah, well, we've got female directors working on The Mandalorian. She mentioned Deborah Chow and Bryce Dallas Howard and was kind of pressed on this question because it was something that has kind of been kicking around for a while. Why haven't you had any female directors? And so she at that point said, oh, absolutely, without question, we'll have a female director. And I would suspect that they were at least well into talks or had maybe been close to even signing a deal with Patty Jenkins at that point. And so she probably knew that it was coming. But I'm very excited to see what she does, and I loved the video that she tweeted out where you see her rollerblading at an airport that looked like somewhere in the high desert in Southern California, and coming up to her car and telling this story about her dad, William, who was an Air Force pilot, decorated Vietnam A4 fighter jet pilot who was killed in a training exercise or a mock exercise when she was 7. And she goes into this whole story about how she has searched for years for the right story to tell about fighter pilots, that she wanted to make the greatest fighter pilot movie ever. She just hadn't found the right story. And so that got me so excited that she's bringing this such a personal, deep passion toward telling this story. I was like, I was in. I was hook, line, and sinker. I was boom. I'm all along for the ride. And when she puts on that flight suit and helmet and walks toward the X-wing at the end, I just almost lost it. It was fantastic. So I'm very excited to see what she does. The other thing about this movie is that I don't know if we can or should call them standalone movies anymore, because when we talked about Rogue One and Solo, it was always in the context of, well, we've got the Skywalker trilogy going on. So I don't know what these are. Would you call them standalone movies anymore? I'm not entirely sure, but whatever she comes up with, I think will be tremendous. And I wasn't a big, I guess Rogue Squadron played out much more heavily in books and comics and things like that. So I don't know that much about their background and story, but seems like there's been some done on them in the past. Maybe you guys know more.
Tom.
I'm actually really surprised they announced this with all the other Disney Plus live action series, because to me this overshadows everything else. I'm super excited about the Plus shows, don't get me wrong, but this news is the news in my mind. This is amazing. And that video that you were talking about was about the most perfect thing that I could have seen today, because I watched it on the couch across the room from my oldest daughter, who's over there doing homework. And I watched it and I looked at her and she goes, "What are you watching?" And I said, "Why?" And she goes, "I've never seen you look at anything so intensely before in your life." And I said, "You just put your homework down. I'm coming over." And I showed it to her. And you guys, I kid you not, after we finished watching it, and by the way, watching it with her was almost as fulfilling as just sitting across the way. But when it finished, she looked at me with the most serious look and she goes, "I want to see this tomorrow." I mean, come on. I mean, she just watched this amazing video of one of the toughest looking gals that I've seen. I mean, how cool was that she's rollerblading on, on the tarmac of and you hear the jets in the back, and she goes up and she shares that story, as you said, Clayton. And here's what I was going to say, that on a personal level is, I know some of the best fiction books that are out there written by people who have experience in the story. Maybe not directly, but I mean, they have the experience. Like I go back to Gary Paulson. Gary Paulson always lived out the things that he wrote about. When he does his Civil War book, he went and lived a weekend camp with Civil War reenactors and got so he went and immersed himself in this. So she has personal connection to what it is to be a family of a pilot. And oh my gosh, I'm bringing the tissues now, because she is going to bring that personal level of not a Star Wars X-Wing. It's going to be not about X-Wings. It's going to be about X-Wing pilots. It's going to be emotion in there. And so I am so pumped for this movie. I can't even, and you're right, Clayton. Why do I have to wait till 2023?
I know.
Please, it's got to be a scheduled conflict. But this is awesome. I am so pumped for this.
Anything about the Taika Waititi?
Other than I was kind of like, ugh, that's all you're giving me on this? Oh man. But it was that we've got some really cool stuff from him coming. I mean, we know what to expect. And that announcement or that reminder kind of made me think back to, especially with some of the other directors of these shows that are coming out. It's kind of like this all-star directing cast of The Mandalorian was like testing ground or it was a launching pad into these other areas. Let's see what these directors have, what they bring to the Star Wars universe, and now let's place them where they are perfect.
It does make me, and Cory knows you're up. It does make me wonder about whatever happened with that Rian Johnson stuff that we're going to see. It makes me really worried about the future of that, because I think Rian Johnson's about as good as it gets. So, Cory, what do you think about this news?
Yeah, if you like chocolate and peanut butter, those go well together. If you like Star Wars and Taika Waititi, I mean, Come on. That guy is super creative. He's super unique. If you've seen any of his films, obviously Thor, he did great on those. But he's got a couple. I think Jojo Rabbit's the title of it, was just wacky. Like, but it is like, that is what almost like that's the creativity. I think what the Star Wars is trying to get to. Like, hey, we're gonna like try things out. Like you said, Tom. Like, we're gonna try these directors out and just like give them the reins to something and see what they want to do. And then I think they cross over and say, hey, what do you want to do now? Now that you've kind of, seen how it goes, what do you want to do? You mentioned Patty Jenkins wanting to do the fighter power stuff. And like, hey, that fits my category. That's where my sweet spot is. That's my passion project. That's the thing about that too, that little clip of her. They had the opportunity to show a fabulous, behind the scenes. They had the opportunity to, do some, like some sketch work of this up and coming Rogue Squadron thing. But they used her story. I mean, they had opportunities to do those things, and they said not only are we going to show her as director, first female director, we're going to show her rollerblading, which I mean, how many takes does that take if she didn't? I don't know how much experience she has, but like up to her car, what a normal thing to do. Honestly, though, like it shows you so much of a director, how a director she is, without a 30-second clip, right? And then I remember watching this, and I was like, what? I didn't know it was connected to the Star Wars announcements, and I was like, okay. And then she is like shifting her clothes, and taking her boots off and stuff, and I was like, what is happening? And then they pan over, and I'm like, oh, that's an X-wing. Like, I thought it was gonna be just like a Tom Cruise fighter jet movie, but no, this is an X-wing or something. And I was like, wow, I was blown away like you guys. Like, this is fantastic. And then they reveal the Rogue Squadron title. Back in 1976, I bought the Rogue Squadron book from Michael A. Stackpole, and that was the first of the series. I remember reading that, and it was just like this cast of characters that were fantastic. And they go on, like, there's like, I think 11 books. And the late Aaron Alston wrote those. And I know those were so fantastic in fandom eyes because to me, that wasn't Luke Skywalker, it wasn't Darth Vader. These were a bunch of it was almost like a Mandalorian series in book form. And they were kind of striking out on their own, and had Wedge in there and doing his thing, and it was just cool to see that kind of this new universe kind of burst, and it was just an opportunity for because we didn't have films then, so we had to go and eat these books up and take advantage of this stuff and make these new memories in our heads and live with these characters. I couldn't tell you the foggiest about what that series is about from my memory, but I'm going to go back and read these books. Definitely, because I want to just kind of experience that. Will they bring these characters back? We've seen so much of this Mandalorian stuff bring all over from Legends into the films, into the, these series and stuff. Why can't they bring some of these characters back? That's all up for grabs, I think. And Patty is the great person to do that. And it's very funny because you talk about this fighter pilot stuff. A lot of that is in Wonder Woman as well, which is pretty interesting. And that connection is really more a passion again for her. So I'm looking forward to the new Wonder Woman movie. Comes out here in a few days or a couple weeks. But wow, this was a great combination of 1-2 punch directors and fun series to take on. So, oof.
Tychus was a fun reminder for sure. But when they said they were going to announce a new movie, I was not expecting any movie announcements. I just thought it was all Disney Plus stuff and maybe something animated. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of like when I'm about to touch a mousetrap. Do I want to do that? Do I want to see if I can get my hand out really quickly before I snap myself? I did that when I was a kid, by the way. It didn't work. The mouse was faster than me, by the way. So I wasn't sure, and then I showed the logo. Because, Cory, did you see the announcement on the stream before you saw the Patty Jenkins thing, or did you see the Patty Jenkins thing first?
I saw her clip first.
Okay, that's
how I saw
advantageous, I would say. So I saw the logo and the reveal, and I was like, why? Why are they doing that? It's live action. Come on. Because I respect that people like it, and there's a thing for that. I'm just not a pilot person. Like, the video games that are all about the X-Wings, okay. And, the books and that's just not necessarily my wheelhouse.
Stop in space. Come on.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. And that's probably what Matt Martin would say. And then I watched, so I was a little disappointed, I think, because I don't know what I was hoping for, but I was like, whatever. And I actually thought for a hot minute, well, I guess my love affair with Star Wars in the movie theaters is maybe in carbonite for a while. Don't shake it up, everybody.
Bubbly.
Yeah, bubbly. It's carbonite. And then I saw that Patty Jenkins did a little video because it was like the teaser, and I thought, well, let's watch this. And like all of you, it was like a punch in the gut, and it was just it was so welcome and so powerful. And I've always loved her anyway. I think Wonder Woman is great. I think she and Gal Gadot are a great team. And when I saw she's a director, she's a storyteller, but she's not an actor. So when she was talking to us, because she's talking to you, the way that this was shot, and how beautiful it was with the the rollerblading, we've all talked about that already. And then when she talked about her dad, it just kind of hit me like, oof. She feels this. This is passion. Like, this is how I hope people feel when they see me teach. And so when I saw that and I felt that pathos, I thought, oh my gosh, this is huge. This is huge. I'm thrilled. I'm stoked. And just seeing that kind of stuff, that kind of contagious energy and passion and excitement for storytelling. And the fact that it means something. It's not just, I like Star Wars, I grew up with this is really cool, and lightsabers and blah, blah. This is like a passion project for me. I was so hooked. So bravo. That sold it. I don't ever remember a director talking about a movie that they were going to make before they made it that had that kind of feel to it. Maybe Ryan Coogler with Black Panther, but I didn't see him talk about that until after I saw Black Panther. So, all right. So we're going to try to wrap up here. We'll just do kind of quick hot takes, 30 seconds to a minute for each. But I want you all to tell me what you're most excited about of all things we discussed and what you're least interested about. And of course, it doesn't mean, who knows? The stuff we're least may be the best thing we ever see. Hard to say. All right. We'll just keep going in the same order. Clayton, you give me one you're most excited about and then what you're least.
Sure. Easy for me. Rogue Squadron, absolutely top of the list. Pick your animated series is probably one of my least. But as much as we got today, as much as we heard about Star Wars today, one of the things that sort of stuck out to me is what we did not hear about. And Dan, you alluded to it earlier. We did not hear anything about this Rian Johnson trilogy, which they have announced on the record in the past, and for them to not mention it at all now, just sort of reading between the lines, I would suspect that has probably gone away. Like Boba Fett in the Sarlacc pit. Oh, wait a minute, that's a bad analogy. But I think it's probably not going to happen because if you think about the Taika project, that wasn't announced until May of this year, relatively recently, and they're talking about it again. So I think, again, reading between the lines, my suspicion is that has probably gone away. The other thing that some people were hoping to hear today was something about either a solo sequel or a solo sequel series. And I actually thought this was going to happen just based on some of the John Kasdan tweets that were out yesterday. There's a whole host of ILMers who have been on Twitter lobbying for a Solo 2. And we did get the Lando series, which kind of to me feels like maybe Solo 1.5. I don't know, but so those are some of the things that I didn't see that I was hoping to hear about today.
Fair enough. Tom, most and least.
Well, I want to say, obviously, I just said that Rogue Squadron is it is far above excitement level for me. But so as far as my favorite Disney Plus streaming show that I'm looking forward to the most, it's Andor. That time period of the Star Wars story is probably one of the most interesting ones to me. The transition from the Republic to the Empire just is fascinating to me. And so I can't wait to see what develops before Rogue One in that story. Least favorite or least excited for, not favorite, but least excited for probably the Lando series, just because I don't really know what that's going to be like. It's the least descriptive to me. So that's probably my least excited.
Okay, Cory.
When Star Wars came out in 1977, it was made for film. Like we've all talked about, films are most exciting. I put it right there, Tom. I'm most excited for a new Star Wars film, which is Rogue Squadron. I think that's super cool. I'm excited that was part of the announcement. But personally, I think I'm most excited for the Rangers of the New Republic series. I really like what Filoni and Favreau are doing. Cool. I think it's going to mix in with the stories we're seeing here in Mandalorian. I'm still on that hype train. And it's just, again, kind of that sandbox idea of just anything goes and just kind of a blast with it. So I think that'd be the top one for me. Low end, I'm with you guys. The animated stuff, I mean, I'm going to probably watch some of it, but, if I missed it for some reason, I'm okay with that, And again, like you said, Dan, like maybe it'll blow me away. I think that's the other thing about all these series. Mm-hmm. Like we just don't know enough to be like, oh yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that character, so I'm not going to watch it. Like we're going to watch it. It's just going to happen. So, it's inevitable, but if I had to choose one right now to go sit down and watch, oh man. Yeah, probably the Rangers of the New Republic, just to see the cool crossover during that time period.
That's good. That's great. Initially, I think I would have said my most anticipated would have been Ahsoka. And then my least would have been the Patty Jenkins. That would have been my least, honestly, when I first saw him. And then I watched the Patty Jenkins thing, and I was like, let's flip that, baby. And now the Patty Jenkins Rogue Squadron is my absolute top. But I got to wonder, do you think we all feel that way because it's a Star Wars movie? Is it because it's a Star Wars movie that's going to be in a movie theater? Is that sort of upping the excitement level for all of us? I mean, I think a big part of it for me. I think that elevates it. I mean, that video would have made me super stoked about watching it on Disney Plus, but knowing that there's passion and it's on a silver screen, that kind of, to me, that gives it an unfair advantage. What do you guys think?
The last movie,
yeah, go ahead.
I would say the last movie I watched, I think it was a Star Wars movie in theaters, and haven't been back since. I think that anticipation level, you have so much going. Since this year's been such a drought of going on experiences, we want to get back in theaters. We want to we want to enjoy that movie going experience again. It's a Star Wars movie coming to film. It's been how long now since Disney's owned this, and we've had all these films come out. Like it's like we're a kids in candy store. We're getting this great stuff. Like it can't get better than a Star Wars movie in the theater. It's just it goes without saying. All the series aside, all those get dumped out in the trash. Fine, but we want these films. We want richness. We want an experience. This stuff we can tell stories all day long in series. We want an experience at the end of the day.
Well said, Clayton.
Yeah, first of all, so much for Bob Iger saying they were pumping the brakes on Star Wars. I think that's went all out the window. But no, I think I'm excited for it to be in the theater because that I can go at a reasonable hour and not stay up and watch The Mandalorian at 2:00 in the morning like I'm doing now.
Yeah, I know. Tom, you want to weigh in on that before I give my least favorite?
Yeah, I just, when you ask that question, to me, it's the whole package. It's the silver screen. It's Patty Jenkins. It's her direct connection with it. It's the mythology of these X-Wing pilots and that we've seen so much of, from Rogue One pilots to the New Hope pilots they're all over the place. Let's get a story about these men and women who, put themselves out in space, in such a vulnerable position for the rebellion. I think that's so cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Very good. My least favorite is the anime thing or the Rangers thing that you're most excited about, Cory. I don't know. It's a little too pedestrian. What I like about the Mandalorian or Star Wars is that there's something extra or otherworldly about these particular individuals that puts them above, the regular folks in the galaxy. But I await and trust these creatives and the wonderful things they've done and that have brought us all together to talk about Star Wars like we get to do each and every week and online and things like that. Let's take one really quick commercial break and we'll be right back with more Coffee with Kenobi.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
As we near the end of the show today, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. We have a lot of fun and you'll make some new friends as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. I really appreciate our CWK Alliance members, Carol Cantwell, James Kersey, Greg Hargrove, Cato McNichol, Mary Purdue, Terry King, Smooth Rivera, J.C. Poe, Ed Kimoto, Robert Avila, Dustin Mills, Chelsea Sansbury, Tyler Pompa, Hannah, Alex Procasio, Ian Thompson, David Nicely, Simbot Deptridarian, Christine Turk, Ross Halliban, Kurt McQuellan, Dan Ream, Colby Mead, Brian Harding, Frank Mulder, Blake Weaver, Chris Metz, LJ Souter, Chris Kavarka, Jeff Ellis, Yancey Evans, Daz Davies, Susan Gray, Thea Selby, Christian Dale, Brian McKinney, Jim Capron, Connie Shee, Jared Cantor, Jason Hall, Eric Struthers, Greg McLaughlin, Aaron Harris, Mark Suter, Angela Sauce, and Dennis Keithley. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, go to www.cwkalliance.com and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Cory Clubb. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zaire, MRZEHR, or on Instagram at DanZareCWK. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Check us out on Pinterest or subscribe to our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can find Facebook Live video, different interviews throughout the years, highlights of video coverage throughout the Coffee with Kenobi history, and the audio podcast itself. You can order my book, The Star Wars Book, which I co-wrote with Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Walmart, or anywhere books are sold. You can also find my writing on Coffee with Kenobi's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I am an official blogger there, and on IGN, where I contribute occasionally to articles about Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. If you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired so you can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our Coffee with Kenobi sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet you want to go on your vacation. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word, and I can't thank you enough for your help, for your support, and your friendship. I love so much being a part of this wonderful Star Wars community, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do for me and Coffee with Kenobi. Speaking of, gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this emergency episode of Coffee with Kenobi. We had to talk about it and process it together right away, and I can't think of three better people to do that with than the three of you. So we'll just kind of go in the same order. Please let everybody know where they can continue the conversation with you and what you've got going on. Clayton, let's start with you.
Best place to reach me is on Twitter at Clayton_Sandell or Instagram, Clayton Sandell ABC.
Very good. And Mr. Gross.
Oh, yes. Well, you can get me on Twitter as well at DraftLine, or you can drop me an email. Give me your whole liturgy about these new announcements at tomg@coffeewithkenobi.com.
Mr. Clubb.
Yeah, feel free to reach out on Twitter at Cory Clubb or drop me a line, Cory C at Coffee with Kenobi, if you want to tell me, what you like the most. I'd love to hear it.
Incredibly exciting. I'm so happy that I was able to talk about this with each and every one of you, and to have Clayton Sandell, Cory Clubb, and Tom Gross join us for a bonus Coffee with Kenobi this week. Will we ever have another day where we have this many amazing Star Wars announcements? I don't know, but I'm thrilled that I was able to be a part of it and to talk about it with each and every one of you. I will see you on Monday night on Facebook Live at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time to break down the top 5 moments from Chapter 15 of The Mandalorian, and certainly to talk a lot more about these announcements from the Disney Investors Meeting. Until next time, everybody, have a great weekend. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along.